What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether that be MLB, NFL, NHL, or NBA, games, news highlights, all that fun stuff. And Nick, in today's episode, there's no sugarcoating it. Obviously, with the preseason games coming up and, joint practices, maybe more importantly for some, both our teams are, approaching, and the season's quickly approaching. So what are the things away you're looking to take away in the preseason / training camp before the regular season?
For me, as a Patriots fan who, is still kind of getting used to the not being good because, the Patriots for so long and now all of a sudden we are bottom of the barrel. So I'm just looking for the young talent that we've picked up just to see how they perform, because I'm assuming Jalen Polk will play. I'm assuming Drake May will get some reps somewhere, whether it's in the first quarter, second quarter, whenever. I'm assuming he'll get a series or two. And same with Joe Milton. So I'm looking to see, who looks better out of those two. And another thing I'm looking forward to is just going to be how Gerard Mayo handles everything as a head coach. Like, is he going to be, talking to players on the sideline? Is he going to be just with the defense? Is he going to be with both sides? Like, I want to just see how things are going to be operating, because this is going to be a brand new era for Patriots fans. I've never seen a non-Bill Belichick coach team up until this year. So I'm very interested to see how things are going to be run. Everything's kind of been behind the scenes as of right now. There hasn't been a whole lot, but maybe with this first preseason game coming out, we're going to see, new stuff, new approaches, new everything. So I am really excited for it, just to see, hopefully the dawn of a new age in New England.
You're 100% right. And I think that's going to be one of the most intriguing things about just what it's going to be like for New England fans. People like us that are still we've made it all the way to college, and Bill Belichick has still been the coach of New England. So up until your last year, it's been him running things, but things have changed differently. And you're probably seeing that, or at least hearing different reports in training camp, how practices are being run and just what the new culture is like. And it's going to be exciting to see, because oftentimes you see players get a spark or something, and you could tell just by how great of a coach he was, one of the best of all time. Bill's message was kind of running a little bit stale with players, and you can only draft so poorly for so long before you could do that mentality of I'll trade this star player for a 6th-round pick and we'll win with this guy. It eventually kind of wore out, but with that being said, I'm really excited to see some of these young rookies, to see really how Gerard Mayo's first draft class does as a whole. Obviously, Drake May, won't be judged until he's full-time starter, and even then, I'd still give it like a year or two after that. So we won't know on him, but the rest of the draft, you don't have to hit on all of them, because at the end of the day, 5th, 6th rounders, they might just get cut. But whoever makes it, or if one does, can they provide something to this team, whether it just be good special teams or something? So there'll definitely be a lot of interesting stuff in their first draft class. Then we head over to my Vikings. And I mean, obviously, I would say my biggest thing is just how Darnold looks with the receivers. And I do anticipate Sam Darnold's playing preseason, but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, they won't be playing in preseason. So I'm really just looking at the QBs mainly in joint practices and how do they look with the wide receivers connection. Obviously, a lot of eyes will be on McCarthy as he's started to work in with the first team over the last 2 or so practices, getting some reps, throwing the ball to Jefferson, Addison, and eventually Hawkinson, who still is ahead of schedule, but I don't anticipate to be ready for maybe the first couple of weeks of the season, just to play it safe, because that was a really tough injury he took against this guy last season. So, but even then, just the other receivers like Jalen Naylor, who I talked about in my sleeper fantasy, I assume he'll play in some preseason. So we'll see how does he look, and just the offensive line, how do they hold up against that Cleveland Browns pass rush? Because if you want a good test, You just see Cleveland, Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson. They got some dogs, Zadarius Smith on that front line. So it's really all eyes are on the first team offense. And when I look at defense, I have a good feeling about the front seven. But I am curious about that back end, just with the unfortunate cornerback situation, whether it be torn ACL to Mekhi Blackman or the unfortunate passing of Kyrie Jackson, who I thought could have been a major contributor this season. So we have, we've been signing random people off the street. I still dream signing would be to get Stephon Gilmore before the season starts.
That would be huge.
Wherever he goes. So just how do the cornerbacks hold up? I know they re-signed Duke Shelley from their 2022 run on his when he was with the Vikings, and they made the playoffs before losing to the Giants. So, they're trying to get some familiarity back in there, but it's going to be up to some of the younger guys and just what can they prove because the cornerback position is probably a huge question mark that can be, addressed, when Mekhi Blackman comes back next season and when free agency, when you still have top 8 money to spend. But this season, I mean, you can have a great front seven, which can help minimize the secondary's problems, but we're going to see how these cornerbacks compete. And, can there be one person that steps up to have a breakout year or just a breakout training camp to be a solidified star?
Yeah. Would you, I don't know his full status, but what about a guy like JC Jackson, former Patriot, former, Pro Bowl corner? He's shown glimpses of success, but also glimpses of, bad failure.
That's the worry, is the glimpses of success were really high, but maybe that could have been just another guy. And I know he came back to New England, but it didn't really.
That's a Brian Flores guy, though. Brian Flores, I'm pretty sure coached him for a year or two before leaving. Unless
if Brian Flores were to go back to his roots, they actually did sign Bobby McCain, a former Dolphins safety / hybrid corner. So Brian Flores, it might be a hybrid like him. My dream would obviously be Stephon, but if they don't, I feel like Brian, pending everything with these allegations, because he has a lot of off the field. If they were to go the Brian Flores route, I feel like they might go more Xavier Howard. But I mean, JC Jackson, it's been definitely a name that's been thrown out. I wouldn't be opposed to it if you need bodies and you're really struggling. But, I mean, just his low lows the past couple seasons have been on notice.
Yeah.
So I think that comes at a discount price. So,
Yeah, I think he tore his Achilles a few years ago, and just since then he hasn't looked like the same cornerback that he was in New England. Even when he came back last year.
Yeah, once he went to the Chargers. But, maybe – I believe he tore in 2022 or something, and then maybe he just needed last year was kind of like a reset year. And then this year maybe he can be back to healthy and be maybe not the same guy he was before, but maybe still somewhat good. So take it what you want.
And while I'm on the Patriots, I kind of want to talk about, not sure if you've seen the rumors, but the Brandon Aiyuk trade rumors are heating up, and they're getting kind of exciting as a Patriots fan. According to reports, I don't know how true this is. Obviously, it could be completely false, but overnight we saw the Browns and the Patriots emerge as the two teams that have a trade on the table, and it's rumored to be up to Brandon Aiyuk on which team he would sign an extension with. So, I mean, if that's true, cross my fingers, hope to God the Patriots can get him to actually have a solidified weapon. But I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the Browns just because they're a more recent success team. They have a good defense. They have, I don't want to say a good quarterback, but it's not between a rookie and a journeyman quarterback. It's like an actual guy.
It depends what Aiyuk wants, I think. I'm also really surprised the Cleveland Browns can afford him.
I know. That's what I was thinking is I don't know because if say the Browns offer him what is he looking for? 25 mil or something like that?
I think around that ballpark, yes.
So if they offer him 26, I feel like the Patriots, because the Patriots have plenty of money to spend, they could probably just be like, okay, we'll give you 28. And then if that's the deal breaker, I feel like the Patriots have the money to play with. It might just be, the trade terms that because the Steelers apparently, I'm seeing all over Twitter that like the Steelers had a trade finalized, but it just fell through for whatever reason. I don't know if it was like
That could have
contract
been
term.
so good for Steelers fans if they could have gone.
Those fans would have been going crazy because that would have been huge for them. He would have been, but I'm just seeing a bunch of depressed Steelers fans on Twitter now, seeing them fall out of the trade talks. But you never know. Maybe these rumors are just being used as leverage for the Niners, and really, a team like the Jets are going to jump out somewhere. But as a Patriots fan, it's exciting, just to hear the talks, just to hear your team's name in some talks for once, because it seemed like the Patriots were never in these kind of talks for a big player. So I hope they can get him.
Yeah,
Brandon
I mean,
Aiyuk's a really good player. But
I think there's a couple things you have to balance. If it is the same money, or if New England's offering more, do you go there, or an opportunity? I feel like in Cleveland, he's going to get around the same opportunity he did with San Francisco, where you have an offensive genius, Kyle Shanahan and Kevin Stefanski. You'll get schemed open, but it's also, as long as he's healthy, you're still going to have a good running game with Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey. You're not going to be the only wide receiver there. Like Amari Cooper is still very much in the mix. David Njoku isn't George Kittle, but David Njoku had a breakout season. He gets a lot of targets, and the defense is really good as well. So you're kind of going into a great situation win now, but you're not going to get the ball all the time. Whereas New England, you might get more opportunity. You might be obviously the clear-cut wide receiver number one with 30 targets a game maybe on your hand.
Right.
So it's kind of, what do you weigh more? But at the end of the day, I think, if it comes down to it, I really do think he'll choose Cleveland just because they're in more of a win now mode. And if it's around the same money, if it's around the same.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the thing is with that, I don't think there's a more win now team than the 49ers, other than like the Chiefs and like the Ravens. So I'm not sure if that's his priority one, which is kind of crazy. But some players out there just want that money. Like he's gone to a Super Bowl. He's had success in the league. He just came off his best season, so he's looking to get paid because of it, which I don't blame him. But like, dude, you're on arguably the most talented, promising roster in the league. Like if there's a team to bet on in the NFL to have, a 10+ win season, it's probably the 49ers, them or the Chiefs, just because they have Patrick Mahomes. But I don't think or the Chiefs.
And I agree to disagree in a sense. I don't know if you have watched the movie or show on Netflix, Receiver. But at the end, after the loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I believe it was Debo or George Kittle just said, "If not now, when?" This 49ers team has been stacked for a couple of years now, and they just haven't been able to win it. And, at the end of the day, I think their window is obviously very much closing. And, next year isn't guaranteed. Another injury. I mean, you already have Dre Greenlaw going down in that defense, descending from what it was at its peak in like 2019, 2021. So you have a defense that's kind of, wearing down. You have just, overall you still have a good you still have a good offense, but the offensive line is nowhere near the same. Trent Williams wants to get paid, and he's been holding out. And that offensive line without Trent Williams is very below average. So this roster is kind of beginning to, see some cracks through the roster. And I think Aiyuk might realize that. I think if Aiyuk went to Cleveland, it might be a hot take, but I think Cleveland would have more wins than the 49ers next season. I think.
Really? That could be a hot take because, I mean,
even then, Nick, they finished one game apart record-wise last year with Joe Flacco.
That's true.
Started the whole season. So, honestly, it's not even a hot take. I think the 49ers will get worse, obviously, and the Browns get better. I believe Cleveland had 11 wins last year, like 11-6, and the 49ers were 12-5 in the 1 seed. I don't know. It's just at the end of the day, I think it's going to be very, tough to see a path for a team like the 49ers to be able to go back to the Super Bowl. And I think Aiyuk realizes those cracks. I think he wants to switch things up. He wants to make his money. A lot of players on that team have taken some pay cuts. But now they're like, you know what? We've taken these pay cuts for what? Nothing. We haven't won a Super Bowl. What are we going to do? We have to, make our money. And Aiyuk wants that. And, he's going to go to one of these teams. And I think that's why if it's around the same ballpark, you get the benefit of either one. I think New England, you get a lot more targets. You can help Drake May develop. And then, Jacoby Brissett obviously is a bridge. Or you go to a win now team in Cleveland with a offensive head coach that's a genius. And, in our power rankings, I believe we both had him top 5. I believe you had him at like 2 or 3. So, I think it lines up perfectly either way. And I do think if it's around the same money, I think he'll choose Cleveland, which would be an amazing destination.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, it's all about approach for him because you think he would impact winning. We crash. No, I'm good.
No.
I'm good. Sorry. I think he would impact winning with the Patriots more so than with the Browns. Like, if the Patriots picked him up, I think it would add a whole another level to their offense, like a whole another threat. He would be getting, like you said, he'd probably be getting close to 15, 20 targets a game, which is crazy. And I know you say, I agree, Kevin Stefanski is one of the best coaches in the league, but the Patriots do have the Browns offensive coordinator from last year, Alex Van Pelt. So he would probably be running close to similar schemes that the Browns ran, obviously not with the same talent. Like, they don't have Nick Chubb or Amari Cooper, David
You
Njoku.
could, but I've never really loved using that just because, I've seen Kevin O'Connell come from Sean McVay's offense, and you see some of the similar things, but they all have their different kind of approaches. So for better or for worse, I think Alex Van Pelt is going to have some different schemes, some similar ones. But I never like to go I don't know if a lot will be similar. But we'll have to see during training camp what they run because just the whole personnel thing is completely different. You have Ramondre Stevenson, but he isn't Nick Chubb, and the Browns were run heavy. What are the Patriots going to do with their weapons and kind of, do they utilize the play action a lot like Cleveland does? It'll be interesting to see, but I don't know how similar they'll run their schemes.
I think just like the overall point that I'm, trying to make is he would be getting his in New England. He would be getting his targets, his receptions, his touchdowns. He'd probably put up pretty solid stats even if the team wasn't great. So it is more so of does he want to win or does he really want to be the guy and get paid? Because he would much more so be the number one offensive option in New England, but he's probably not winning nearly as many games as in Cleveland because the defense isn't as great. The offense definitely isn't as great. So I'm curious to see, or does a third team swoop in and say, you know what, we'll offer even better and give you even more money. And then all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'll go there.
Vikings.
Well, I don't know about the Vikings. They got two $30 million receivers on their payroll. That's,
Yeah.
And Jordan Addison's going to have to get paid in a few years.
That's down the line. That's why you have cap space. I'm always curious though, because I feel like in these trades, it's always we have two teams, and then just a random team swoops in, deal's done, and he ends up going to the Commanders after all. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how because that would obviously be big for both teams. It might change a little bit of how we look, especially for Cleveland if they were to get a guy like Brandon Aiyuk's caliber. But with that being said, that'll be interesting to keep an eye out. And some of the guys, like we talked about, the cornerbacks are still in the market. There's still some very good free agents that are kind of waiting out the long grind at training camp before we, head into the regular season very shortly. Within I believe yesterday marked a month from exactly NFL kickoff, September 5th. So that'll be fun. I know it'll be an exciting time. But with that being said, as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and let us know in the comments what you're most looking forward to for your favorite team's training camp, and something you're going to keep your eyes on, whether it be joint practices or preseason, something you're looking forward to. But make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next one. Peace.